The explosion threw Park against the wall like he was made of paper. His ears rang. His vision blurred. Smoke filled his lungs and he coughed hard, tasting blood and dust. Station was dying around him. Was a medic with the 42nd Expeditionary Force. He had been on the station for 3 months, treating wounded soldiers and trying to keep good men alive in a war that seemed to have no end. The war between humanity and the Empire had lasted 7 years now. 7 years of death. 7 years of hatred. 7 years of watching friends die in the cold darkness of space. He pushed himself up from the floor. His hands were shaking. The corridor around him was destroyed. Ceiling panels hung down like broken teeth. Wires sparked and hissed. Emergency lights flashed red, painting everything in the color of blood. "Report," he said into his communicator. Static answered him. The communication system was dead. Checked his body. Nothing broken. His armor had protected him from the worst of the blast. He was lucky. Others would not be so lucky. He started moving through the wreckage, looking for survivors. They had hit them with an orbital strike. Their ships had appeared from nowhere as they always did and rained fire down on the station. Had seen this before. He knew what came next. Ground troops would arrive soon to finish what their ships had started. He needed to find his unit. He needed to help the wounded. He needed to survive. A sound stopped him in his tracks. It was small, weak, a cry that did not sound human. Turned his head toward the sound. It came from beneath a pile of rubble near what used to be a storage room. He moved closer, his boots crunching on broken glass and metal. The cry came again, higher this time, more scared. He started pulling away pieces of metal and concrete. His muscles burned with effort. Sweat ran down his face and mixed with the dust that covered everything. He worked faster, driven by something he could not name. Then he saw her. A child, a child. She was small, no bigger than a 5-year-old human. Her skin was pale blue, the color of Earth's sky on a clear morning. Her eyes were large and silver, filled with tears and terror. She had 4 fingers on each hand, and those hands were reaching up toward him, toward this human soldier who should be her enemy. Froze. They were the enemy. They had killed millions of humans. They had destroyed colonies. They had taken worlds that belonged to humanity. Every soldier knew what to do when they found an enemy. Every soldier knew the rules of war. But this was a child. She could not have been responsible for any of it. She was just a small creature, trapped and scared and alone. Her harmonic cry filled the air, a sound that was strange but also universal. The sound of a child calling for help. Made his choice. He reached down and carefully lifted the debris that trapped her. She was hurt. He could see blue blood on her arm where something had cut her, but she was alive. She looked up at him with those silver eyes, and he saw in them the same thing he would see in any human child. Fear, confusion, hope. "It is okay," he said softly. He did not know if she understood his words, but he hoped she understood his tone. "I will help you." He lifted her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her body was warm against his chest, and he could feel her hearts beating fast. Had 2 hearts. He had learned that in training when they taught soldiers how to kill them more efficiently. Now he held one in his arms, and he had no intention of killing her. Plasma fire erupted around them. The ground troops had arrived. They moved through the station in their black armor, their weapons cutting down anything that moved. They were efficient. They were deadly. They showed no mercy. They also did not care that one of their own was in the line of fire. Saw the plasma bolt coming. Time seemed to slow down. He could calculate exactly where it would hit. It would hit the child in his arms. It would kill her instantly. He turned his back to the fire. The bolt slammed into his armor. Pain exploded through his body. He felt the heat burn through his suit, felt it cook his skin. He screamed, but he did not let go of the child. He wrapped himself around her, making his body a shield. Another bolt hit him. His armor cracked. Warning lights flashed in his helmet telling him things he already knew. He was dying. His body was failing. The damage was too severe. A third bolt. He fell to his knees, still holding the child. She was crying now, her small hands gripping his arm with surprising strength. He could feel her tears on his skin. "Stay down," he whispered. "I have got you." Human reinforcements arrived. He heard the familiar sound of earth weapons, the sharp crack of and the hum of pulse rifles. His people had come. They were retreating. Someone was shouting his name. He recognized the voice. Sergeant Minu, his friend, his brother in battle. Minu was pulling him up, trying to see how bad the damage was. "What were you thinking? What is that thing?" Looked down at the child in his arms. She was still holding onto him. She was still alive. "She is a child," he said. His voice was weak. His vision was going dark. Just a child. Then he passed out. He woke up briefly during the evacuation. Medical staff were working on him, their faces hidden behind masks and shields. He could hear voices talking about his condition. Severe burns, spinal damage, internal bleeding. They did not expect him to live. But there was another voice too. A small voice, speaking in a language he did not understand. He turned his head and saw her. The child. She was sitting in the corner of the medical shuttle, guarded by soldiers who looked at her with hatred and confusion. She was looking at him. Her silver eyes were calm now. She raised one small hand and waved at him. Smiled, then darkness took him again. What he did not know was that cameras had captured everything. The footage was already spreading across military networks. It showed a human soldier throwing himself in front of plasma fire to protect an enemy child. It showed something that no one on either side of the war had ever seen before. It showed mercy. And that footage would change everything. The footage spread like fire through dry grass. On Earth, millions watched a human soldier shield an alien child with his broken body. On the colony worlds, people gathered around screens and argued about what they saw. On military bases across human space, soldiers debated whether Park was a hero or a traitor. Some called him the best of humanity. They said he proved that humans were better than their enemies. They said his mercy showed the universe what it meant to be human. Others called him a fool. They said he had risked human lives to save an enemy. They said they would have let any human child die without a second thought. They said mercy in war was weakness. But everyone watched, everyone had an opinion, and everyone waited to see what would happen next. In a hospital on Luna, lay in a healing pod while machines worked to rebuild his broken body. He did not know about the footage. He did not know that his face was now famous across 2 civilizations. He only knew darkness and pain and the slow return of consciousness. Far away, across the void of space, someone else was watching the same footage. High Matriarch sat alone in her private chamber on the flagship throne of silences. She was 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin covered in scars from centuries of battle. Her silver eyes, the same color as her daughter's, stared at the screen before her. She watched the footage again, and again, and again. The strike on station had been her order. It was revenge for the human attack on supply lines. War was war. Death was death. She had accepted this truth long ago. But her daughter had been on that station. Had been traveling with a diplomatic convoy when the humans attacked. The convoy had crashed on station. Had believed her daughter dead. She had mourned. She had raged. She had sworn to destroy every human world in payment for her loss. Now she watched a human male wrap himself around her child and take plasma fire meant for her. 3 shots, his back armor cracked and burned. His body twisted in pain, but he did not move. He did not let go. He protected with his own flesh and bone. Did not understand. They were conquerors. They had built their empire on strength and power. Mercy to enemies was not in their nature. When it defeated an enemy, they showed no kindness. When found an enemy child, they did not shield it with their body. But this human did. She called for her advisors. They came quickly, knowing better than to keep her waiting. She showed them the footage and asked them to explain. "He is damaged in the mind," one advisor said. "Humans sometimes break under the pressure of war." "He wanted to use the child as a hostage," another suggested, "a bargaining tool." "He is simply a fool," a third said. "His foolishness means nothing." Dismiss them all. Their explanations did not satisfy her. She had studied humans for decades. She had fought them across 100 battlefields. She knew they were capable of great cruelty and great kindness, often at the same time. But this was something else. This was something she needed to understand. She contacted her intelligence network and learned everything about the human soldier. His name was Park. He was a medic, trained to save lives rather than take them. He had served for 4 years with no marks of special honor or special shame. He was ordinary in every way, except for what he had done. In the culture, there was an ancient concept called the life bond. When someone saved your life or the life of your child, you owed them everything: your protection, your loyalty, your family name. This bond could not be broken by distance or time. It was sacred. No one had ever applied the life bond to an enemy before. The idea was unthinkable, but was not like other. She had not become high matriarch by following old rules. She had risen to power by seeing what others could not see, by doing what others would not do. She made her decision. A message was sent to Human Command. It was short and clear. The High Matriarch of the Third Fleet was requesting communication with the human leadership. She was willing to discuss a ceasefire. The humans were suspicious. Of course they were. After 7 years of war, any offer of peace seemed like a trap, but they were also tired. The war had cost them millions of lives and countless resources. Even a temporary pause in the fighting would be welcome. They agreed to talk. The negotiations happened in secret, through secure channels that both sides pretended did not exist. Spoke directly with Admiral, the commander of human forces in the sector. He was an old man with gray hair and hard eyes, a man who had spent his entire life fighting her kind. "What do you want?" he asked. "The soldier," she said, "the one who saved my daughter." Admiral was silent for a long moment. "You want him as a prisoner?" "No, I want him as part of my house. I want to claim him under the life bond." "I do not know what that means." Explained. She told him about the ancient tradition, about the debt that could never be repaid, about the bond that made strangers into family. She told him that this human had earned a place in her house, whether he wanted it or not. "You want to take one of our soldiers," Admiral said slowly, "and make him part of your family." "Yes. And in exchange, a complete ceasefire. No more attacks on human worlds. No more battles. The war will pause while we explore what this means." Admiral did not trust her. She could see it in his eyes, but she could also see something else. Hope, exhaustion, the desperate wish for peace that lived in all beings who had seen too much death. "I will discuss this with my superiors," he said. The news reached 3 days later. He was awake now, his body rebuilt with metal and synthetic tissue. He would never be fully human again. Too much of him had been replaced with machines, but he was alive. Colonel came to deliver the news herself. She was his commanding officer, a woman of 50 with short gray hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. Today her face showed something close to disbelief. "They want you," she said. "Their matriarch. She wants to claim you under something called the life bond." Stared at her. "I do not understand." "Neither do I." She handed him a data pad with the details. "Command is considering it. If you agree to go, the war stops, at least for now." "And if I refuse?" Colonel met his eyes. "Then the war continues. More people die on both sides." She left him alone with his thoughts. He lay in his hospital bed and looked at the ceiling and wondered how saving one child had led to this. Outside his room, the debate raged on. His unit wanted to protect him. Sergeant Minu threatened to desert if they handed over to the enemy. Corporal suggested they fake his death and hide him somewhere that would never find him. But was not thinking about escape. He was thinking about a small blue child with silver eyes. He was thinking about how she had held onto his arm while he burned. He was thinking about the wave she had given him on the medical shuttle. He had saved her life. Now her mother wanted to save his. He did not know if he could trust the. He did not know if this was a trap. He did not know what would happen to him if he agreed. But he knew one thing. If his choice could stop the war, even for a moment, then it was not really a choice at all. The hospital room felt smaller every day. Spent his hours staring at the walls, thinking about the choice that lay before him. His body was healing. The machines inside him hummed quietly, doing their work, but his mind was far from healed. He had visitors, many visitors. Sergeant Minu came first, still wearing his battle armor, still carrying the anger that never seemed to leave him. He sat by his bed and spoke in a low, fierce voice. "You cannot do this," Minu said. "You cannot give yourself to them. They are the enemy. They have killed our friends. They have destroyed our homes. And now you want to join them." "It is not about joining them," said quietly. "It is about stopping the killing. The killing will never stop, not until one side wins. That is how war works." Looked at his friend. They had served together for 4 years. They had saved each other's lives more times than he could count. Minu was more than a friend. He was a brother. "I saved a child, Minu, a little girl. She was scared and hurt and alone. I could not let her die. She was the enemy. She was a child." Minu had no answer for that. He left the room with his hands clenched into fists. Corporal came next. She was calmer than Minu, but her eyes held the same worry. She brought food from the cafeteria and sat with him while he ate. "I have a plan," she said. "We can get you out of here. There are places where the military cannot find you. You could disappear." "And then what? The war continues. More people die. More children on both sides grow up without parents." Set down her food. "You really believe going to them will change anything?" "I do not know, but I have to try." Why you? Why does it have to be you?" Thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. Why had he saved the child? Why had he not let her die like any soldier should have? Why was he different? "Because I was there," he finally said. "Because I saw her, because I could not walk away." Nodded slowly. She did not agree with him, but she understood. That was enough. The hardest visit came last. Park arrived on the 3rd day. He was 70 years old, a retired admiral who had fought in the first battles of the war. He was also his father. They had not spoken in years. After his mother died, their relationship had fallen apart. Had wanted his son to become a warrior, a fighter, a killer. Had chosen to become a medic instead. His father had never forgiven him. Now the old man stood in the doorway, looking at his son with eyes that held a complicated mix of emotions. "May I come in?" asked. Nodded. His father walked slowly to the chair beside the bed. He moved like a man carrying a heavy weight. Age had taken much from him. The proud admiral remembered was gone, replaced by this tired old man. "I spoke to Admiral," said. "I tried to stop this. I told them they could not send you to the like some kind of gift. I told them you were a hero, not a bargaining piece." "What did they say?" "They said the decision was yours, and that they hoped you would make the right choice." Was surprised. "They are letting me decide." "Yes," his father's voice was bitter. "They are cowards. They want the ceasefire, but they do not want the responsibility, so they put it on you." Silence filled the room. Father and son sat together, separated by years of anger and disappointment. "I watched the footage," finally said. "I saw what you did." "And and I do not understand it. I have fought them my entire life. I have seen what they do to our people. They show no mercy. They feel no compassion. They are monsters." The child was not a monster. The child will grow up to be one. That is what they are. Shook his head. "You do not know that. You cannot know that." His father leaned forward. "I know what I have seen. I know what this war has cost us. Your mother died because of them. Do you remember that?" "I remember." "Then how can you even consider this?" Looked at his father. He saw the pain behind the anger. He saw the grief that had never healed. He saw a man who had lost everything to this war and could not imagine any other way. "Because someone has to be first," said. "Someone has to take the first step. If we wait for the to show mercy first, we will wait forever. Maybe they are monsters, or maybe they are just beings who have never been given a reason to be anything else." "That is foolish talk." "Maybe, but I would rather be a fool than a man who let a child die because she had the wrong color skin." Was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than before. "Your mother would have been proud of you. She always said you had too much heart for this world. I thought it was a weakness. Now I wonder if I was wrong." He stood up and walked to the door. Before he left, he turned back one more time. "Be careful, my son. They may speak of honor and bonds, but they are not like us. Do not trust them." "I will be careful. And come back, if you can, come back to us." After his father left, made his decision. He called Colonel and told her he would go. She did not try to change his mind. She simply nodded and began making the arrangements. The news spread quickly. Received messages from people he had never met, humans from across the colonies who wanted to thank him or curse him, or simply understand why he was doing this. He did not respond to any of them. On the day of his departure, his unit came to say goodbye. They lined up in the docking bay, wearing their dress uniforms, standing at attention. Minu's eyes were wet with tears he would not admit to. Gave him a small knife, a weapon hidden easily, just in case. "Come back to us," Minu said. "Whatever happens, come back." "I will try." Walked onto the transport ship alone. The doors closed behind him, sealing him away from everything he had known. Through the window, he watched the human station grow smaller and smaller until it was just a point of light among millions. He was going to the enemy. He was going to a place where no human had ever gone willingly. He was going to a future he could not imagine. But he was not afraid. Because somewhere on a ship, a little girl with silver eyes was waiting for him. A little girl who had held onto his arm while the world burned around them. A little girl who had waved goodbye when they took her away. He had saved her life. Now he would see what that life was worth. The flagship was the largest thing had ever seen. The throne of silences hung in space like a mountain made of metal. It was 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, surrounded by smaller ships that moved around it like fish around a whale. This was the heart of the Third Fleet, the ship from which High Matriarch commanded her forces. Transport approached slowly. He stood at the window and watched as docking ports opened to receive him. He felt very small, very alone. The doors opened, and he stepped into enemy territory. The first thing he noticed was the cold. They kept their ships much colder than humans preferred. His breath made small clouds in the air. He wrapped his arms around himself and tried not to shiver. The second thing he noticed was the silence. Did not speak unless they had something important to say. The soldiers who met him at the dock did not greet him or explain where they were taking him. They simply gestured for him to follow. He followed. They walked through corridors that stretched on forever. The walls were dark metal, decorated with strange symbols that meant nothing to him. Others passed them, and every single one stopped to stare at the human in their midst. Their silver eyes held curiosity and hostility in equal measure. Kept his head up and his face calm. He would not show fear. Finally, they reached a large door. One of the soldiers pressed his hand against a panel, and the door slid open. They pushed inside and left him there. The room was simple: a bed, a table, a window that looked out at the stars. It was better than a prison cell, but not by much. He sat on the bed and waited. Hours passed. No one came. He began to wonder if they had forgotten about him or if this was some kind of test. He was hungry and tired and cold, but he did not complain. He simply waited. When the door finally opened, he expected soldiers. He did not expect a child. Stood in the doorway, her silver eyes wide with excitement. She wore a simple blue dress, and her pale skin seemed to glow in the dim light. Behind her, two adult guards watched with obvious disapproval. "It is you," she said in broken but understandable human speech. "The one who saved me." Stood up slowly. "You remember me?" "Of course I remember. You held me when the fire came. You kept me safe." She walked into the room without fear, approaching him like he was an old friend. "I wanted to thank you, but they would not let me see you until now." They, Mother and her advisors. They argued for many days about what to do with you. Some wanted to keep you locked away. Some wanted to send you back. But Mother said you belong to our house now. She said the life bond is sacred. Knelt down so he could look at her face to face. She was so small, so young. It was hard to believe she was the daughter of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked. Shook her head. "Number should I be? I am human. Your people and my people are enemies." She thought about this for a moment. "You saved me. Enemies do not do that." Before he could respond, another figure appeared in the doorway. This one was much larger. Had to bend down to enter the room. She was massive, 7 feet of muscle and scar tissue, her blue skin marked by centuries of battle. She wore simple robes instead of armor, but she still looked like a warrior. She would always look like a warrior. She studied with those silver eyes, the same eyes her daughter had. He felt like she was looking through him, seeing things he did not even know were there. "Leave us," she said to the guards, and two. Her voice was deep and smooth, like water running over stone. But it began. "Now." The child obeyed, but not before giving one last smile. The door closed behind her, leaving him alone with the matriarch. They stood in silence for a long moment, finally spoke. "You are smaller than I expected." Almost laughed. "Most things are small compared to you." Something flickered in her eyes, amusement maybe, or curiosity. "You do not tremble, you do not beg. I have killed humans who saw me and could not speak from fear, yet you stand there and make jokes. Would trembling change anything?" "No, but it is what I have come to expect from your kind." She moved to the window and looked out at the stars. Her reflection floated in the glass, a ghost made of light. "I have been trying to understand you," she said. "I have studied humans for a long time. I thought I knew what you were capable of: cruelty, courage, stupidity, but what you did on station, I cannot understand it. I saved a child. There is nothing to understand." "You saved my child, my enemy's child. You burned for her, your body broke for her. Why?" Considered the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. "Because she was afraid," he finally said. "Because she was alone. Because when I looked at her, I did not see an enemy. I saw a child who needed help." Turned to face him. "Among my people, that kind of mercy is weakness. We survive by being strong. We conquer by showing no pity." "And where has that gotten you?" Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "You have been fighting humans for 7 years. Before that, you fought other species. Before that, others still. Your empire is built on war, but wars never end. There is always another enemy, another battle, another reason to kill. Does that not get tiring?" "Tiring? Yes. Do you never wish for something else, for peace?" Was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "I had another child once. A son. He died in battle against your people. I mourned him for one day as our tradition demands, and then I returned to war. I thought that was strength. I thought that was what it meant to be. She looked back out the window. Then I lost, or thought I did. And for the first time in my long life, I did not want to fight. I wanted to scream. I wanted to burn worlds, but I did not want more war. I wanted my daughter back. And now you have her. Because of you, she turned to face him fully. You gave me back what I thought was lost forever. In my culture, that creates a bond that cannot be broken. You are now part of my house, my family, whether you want to be or not. Nodded slowly. What does that mean for me? It means you are under my protection. No one on this ship will harm you. You will live here, learn our ways, and perhaps teach us something of yours. And if I want to leave? Do you want to leave? Thought about it. He thought about his friends back home, about his father, about the life he had left behind. Then he thought about Smile and the way she had looked at him without fear. Not yet, he said. I think there is more to learn here. For the first time, smiled. It was a small thing, barely visible, but it changed her face completely. Then welcome to the throne of silences, Park. Welcome to my house, and welcome to your new life. 6 months had changed everything. Walked through the corridors of the throne of silences like he belonged there. The crew no longer stared at him with hatred. Some even nodded when he passed, a small gesture of respect that would have been unthinkable when he first arrived. He had learned their language, their customs, their songs. He had treated their wounded when a pirate attack left dozens injured. He had sat with their dying and held their hands as they passed into whatever waited beyond. He had become something none of them could name. Not quite human anymore, but something in between. Followed him everywhere. She had grown in these months, both in size and in spirit. She spoke human speech almost perfectly now, and she asked questions that made think hard about things he had always taken for granted. Why do humans cry when they are sad and also when they are happy? She asked one day. Because feelings are complicated, he said. Sometimes they overflow, and tears are how they escape. Do you ever cry? Sometimes. When you saved me, were you crying then? Thought back to that moment, to the fire and the pain and the small blue child in his arms. I do not remember. Everything was happening so fast. I was crying, said quietly. I was so scared. But when you held me, I felt safe. Even though you were burning, even though you were hurt, I knew you would not let go. I could not let go. You were counting on me. Is that why you did it? Because I was counting on you. Smiled, that was part of it. The peace treaty was finally ready. After months of negotiation, humans had agreed to terms. The war would end. Trade routes would open. Prisoners would be exchanged. It was not perfect, but it was a beginning. The signing ceremony would take place on a neutral station, in a system that belonged to neither species. Representatives from both sides would attend, would sign for the Admiral would sign for humans, and would stand beside them as a symbol of what was possible. He did not want to be a symbol. He just wanted the killing to stop. But he understood why it mattered. Sometimes people needed to see something they did not believe was possible before they could believe it. The neutral station was small and gray and cold. Arrived with along with a guard of 20 soldiers. The human delegation was already there, waiting in the main hall. Saw familiar faces. Admiral looking older than he remembered. Colonel standing straight and proud, and in the back, hiding among the guards, Sergeant Minu. Their eyes met across the room. Minu looked different, harder somehow, but when he saw, something softened in his face. Later thought they would talk later. The ceremony began. Speeches were made in both languages. Documents were presented and reviewed. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if this fragile peace would hold. Stood between the two delegations, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. 6 months ago, he had been a simple medic. Now he was standing at the center of something that would shape the future of two civilizations. He saw the shooter a moment before anyone else. A human face in the crowd, someone he recognized, a soldier from his old unit, a man named who had lost his entire family to an attack. His eyes were wild with hate. His hand was reaching for a weapon hidden under his uniform. Moved without thinking, he threw himself toward and shouting a warning that was lost in the sudden chaos. Plasma fire erupted from multiple directions. The human shooter was not alone. Attackers emerged from the crowd as well, targeting both delegations. The extremists had coordinated, human and working together for the first time, not for peace, but for death. Felt a bolt graze his shoulder. Pain flared, but he kept moving. He reached and pulled her down behind a table. Was already fighting, her massive body moving with surprising speed as she engaged the attackers. More gunfire, more screaming. Looked up and saw aiming directly at him. Traitor, spat, you betrayed your own kind. I tried to save them, said, all of them. The shot never came. Minyu appeared behind and knocked the weapon from his hand. They struggled, two humans fighting each other while aliens watched. It was over in minutes. The attackers were dead or captured. The peace treaty lay on the floor, splattered with blood from both species. But both delegations were alive. Both leaders were unharmed. In the aftermath, something unexpected happened. The guards and the human soldiers stood together over the bodies of the extremists. They looked at each other, not with hatred but with something like understanding. They had all just fought for the same thing, the survival of their leaders and the hope of peace. Admiral picked up the treaty and wiped the blood from its surface. He looked at. Shall we continue? She nodded. Yes, let us finish what we started. The treaty was signed that day. Not in a clean ceremony with speeches and applause, but in a bloody room with the smell of smoke still in the air. Somehow, that made it more real. 1 year later, stood on the observation deck of Earth's first joint embassy with the Empire. The building was a marvel of cooperation, designed by architects from both species, built with materials from both worlds. Stood beside him. She was taller now, almost reaching his shoulder. She served as a cultural liaison, helping humans and understand each other. She was good at it. Do you miss your home? She asked. Looked out at the stars. Sometimes, but I have found a new home, maybe more than one. Behind them was speaking with Admiral Park. The old man had come out of retirement to help build the new peace. He and the matriarch had discovered they had much in common. Decades of war, the loss of children, the exhaustion that came from fighting for so long. They were not friends, not yet, but they were no longer enemies. I have been thinking, said, about what makes humans different. You are small and weak and you do not live very long, but you change things. You changed my mother. You changed me. How do you do that? Smiled. I do not know. Maybe it is because we have such short lives. We do not have time to wait for things to get better. We have to make them better ourselves. Is that why you saved me? Because you did not have time to think about it. I think I saved you because it was the right thing to do. And sometimes doing the right thing does not require thinking. It just requires doing. Nodded slowly. I want to be like that. I want to do the right thing without having to think about it. You already do. You just do not realize it yet. A message arrived on its communicator. A request from a human colony that was having trouble with their new neighbors. Some old conflicts were flaring up. They needed someone to help them find common ground. He looked at, want to come with me? Her silver eyes lit up, always. They walked together toward the transport bay. Behind them, two old warriors continued their conversation. Around them, humans and worked side by side, building something that had never existed before. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Because that was humanity's gift and curse, the ability to look at an enemy and see something more. to choose compassion when hatred would have been easier, to build bridges across the void of space and understanding alike. They had conquered 100 worlds through strength. Humanity would unite the galaxy through something far more powerful. And it had all started with one soldier, one child, and a choice made in the middle of fire. Did not regret it, not for a second.